Reaction to all of this from House Speaker Paul Ryan. Mr. Speaker, thanks for being with us. I want to ask you what your initial reaction was when you heard that the FBI Director James Comey was fired.
Well, obviously, firing an FBI director is no small thing and quite a serious matter. You know, I think the truth is James Comey, who is a worthwhile and dedicated public servant, I think he had just basically lost the confidence of a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats based upon his conduct, his actions, and some of the comments that he had made. And most importantly, he lost the confidence of the president. And it is entirely within the president's role and authority to relieve him, and that's what he did.
Were you given a heads up?
Right before it happened, he basically called me when I got off a flight to tell me that he had made this decision. I also think if you take a look at the fact that, you know, he was losing confidence in the Justice Department, I think the president felt the right thing to do to let him go, move on. I think what's really important at this point now is that we find a replacement very soon, somebody who's very qualified and capable, so we can get that person up and running soon. And I think the other thing that's important at this point is to make sure that the professionals at the FBI know that their jobs are valuable and that they have to keep doing what they're doing, do their jobs objectively and thoroughly. I'm pleased that the White House says that the work that they were doing, the investigations they're doing yesterday will continue today and tomorrow. So I think it's important. I think the DOJ, the Attorney General and the Assistant Attorney General should make it clear to all of the people, the professional men and women at the FBI, that they should keep doing their jobs thoroughly and professionally while we find a replacement. I think it's very important that the administration moves quickly with a capable replacement.
Mr. Speaker, you know it's not just Democrats who are raising a lot of concerns about this and about the timing of it. It's also Republicans. This is Senator Burr, the chair of the Senate Intel Committee. Take a listen.
Timing and the reasons for this decision made little sense to me, and I don't think I've heard anything since last night that would clarify that in any way. The reasoning from the DAG's letter dealt with an election issue that was from last year. If that was the impetus behind this, it should have been done on Inauguration Day, not in May.
Your reaction to that?
Well, I think the president lost patience, and I think people in the Justice Department lost confidence in Director Comey himself. And I think the president was looking at a situation where you had senior Justice Department officials losing confidence, and he does not want to see the FBI in disarray. He wanted to see the FBI up and running and moving well. And I think Director Comey kind of became an issue himself. And so it's obviously within the president's authority and role to do this. I think he made an important command decision. That's the decision that is in his right to do it. And now let's go forward. Let's get a capable person to replace him, and let's just make sure that the men and women there at the FBI keep doing their jobs. Yeah. That's the way I see it.
So a couple more things on this, and just quickly, Senator McCain and a few others are calling for a special prosecutor. Obviously, Democrats are in lockstep on calling for that. Idea. Why is that not a good idea?
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. I think first of all, we have 3 investigations going on right now. We have a House investigation by our Intelligence Committee, which is the appropriate committee to do that, I believe. And we have the Senate Intelligence Committee. You just played Richard Burr doing an investigation, and you have the FBI investigating all things Russia. So I don't think that that's a good idea. I think the Intelligence Committees are the ones that should do this, because don't forget that the methods and sources of our intelligence gathering are also at play here, and we have to be very sensitive so that we don't compromise that information as well. So I really do believe that these 3 investigations are the way to go. Let's get them done. Let's see them through. Let's go where the facts may lead. And I do think that Director Comey was compromised. Clearly, his superiors in the Justice Department felt that way, and the president made a presidential decision and removed him.
Okay. And last thing, how it happened, are you okay with all of that? Obviously, it's his prerogative to do it, but how it transpired. And then the images today out of the Oval Office, considering that the FBI director was leading a counterterrorism investigation about possible collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. You had the Russian foreign minister and the Russian ambassador to the U.S., who's obviously the focus of a lot of these investigations, including Mike Flynn, why the Attorney General recused himself. Your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, there has never been any evidence presented that President Trump had anything to do with any of this. So I think it's really important. I think they mentioned this in testimony just the other day in the Senate. So that's point number one. So let's make sure that there's no innuendo improperly being made here. The second point is these investigations are continuing on. The people at the FBI who do the investigations are still there working in on the job. So I think that's just an important point to be made there as well. So look, the way I look at this is let's keep these investigations going. That's what we've been doing. That's what we will continue to do. And I don't know all that led up to this decision. The administration, I'm sure, will make that clear about the process that led to this, but also let's make sure we have a clear process going on from here. And that means find a suitable replacement soon, make sure that people do their jobs, and I believe that the committees in Congress that are looking into all things Russia are the appropriate committees doing that, and they're doing their jobs. So we're just going to see where this goes.
And just to be clear, we say when we report this that there is no evidence of collusion. James Clapper has said that, but there is also an ongoing investigation that Sally Yates and others have not talked about.
Investigations have been concluded, but that's right. But I think it's really important to know that there has been no evidence presented in any of this stage of this that suggests that this collusion occurred. So I think it's really important that people know that. But yes, there's a lot of things we're still looking at. We're looking at who did the unmasking of Mike Flynn. There are a lot of those questions that still have yet to be answered.
And do you think that had a part? The president was frustrated with the lack of progress on the unmasking and the leak investigation?
Well, I can't speak to that. I can speak to the fact that the president saw an FBI director where people had lost confidence in him from both parties, including high senior officials at the Justice Department, and he acted. And that's what a president can and should do. Okay.
Let's turn now. You've got a heavy agenda. You've just passed your version of health care repeal and replace. But you've got 4 months, 3 months Congress is in session, not here in August. You've got the FY18 budget that's supposed to come over, I guess, the 22nd from the White House. You need that. 12 appropriation bills, a debt limit increase, comprehensive tax reform, Obamacare repeal and replace from the Senate, and infrastructure. How do you get that done? If you look at the calendar,
throw some border patrol in there and infrastructure, and you've got right.
45 days in the House.
We walk and chew gum at the same time. What we do is we walk and chew gum at the same time. Look at how much we've already done. We've passed 13 Congressional Review Act resolutions in law. That's rolling back 13 job-killing Obama-era regulations. We've got our health care bill through. We got a big government funding bill through. Now we're going to go back at it. We're going to get working on tax reform, infrastructure. More efforts need to be done on securing the border, rebuilding the military, more regulatory relief. We're working on our Dodd-Frank legislation next week. So we've got a full plate of things that we think are necessary, not only to fulfill our promises, Brett, but making sure that we get the economy growing. That means reforming the tax code, overhauling regulations, getting the military what they need, securing the border, and yes, infrastructure is a big piece of our agenda. So all of these things are all for 2017. We're getting back to work on Monday on moving some of these things through. And yes, we have a full packed agenda. We can walk and chew gum at the same times. We have various different committees working on these bills at the same time. Then we bring them to the floor, then we pass them. That's how the legislative process works. It's an ambitious agenda, but that's what people elected us to do, is to enact an ambitious agenda to get this country back on track, and I'm very excited about it. I'm excited we got a president leaning in, pushing us, encouraging us, getting this done, and we are very serious. That's why I'm here in Ohio talking to manufacturers about tax reform. We think that is really important to get economic growth in this country, to get people back to work, to raise wages, and so that's one of the things we're out here talking about, listening to manufacturers right here in the heartland about what they need to see to get this economy growing, and we're going to be working on this agenda all summer and, yes, into the fall.
What you need to see before you get to tax reform is health care. Is that correct?
Well, it makes it a lot easier and a lot better. So we would like to see it clearly before we do tax reform.
Can you get it by the end of the summer?
We can work on these things in the same track. Which one, health care or tax reform?
Health care.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do believe we can get this by the end of the summer. I hope the Senate can move this bill fairly quickly, hopefully in a month or two. That would be my preference.
They said they're starting from scratch. Some of them.
At the same time, just so you say, at the same time, we're going to be working on tax reform. So it's not as if we wait for one to be finished and then go work on something else. We've been working on tax reform all along. We've been working on border security all along. We've been working on rebuilding our military all along. We're working on our Dodd-Frank reform legislation, which is really important to get credit flowing in America. We've been been working on all of these things at the same time, and now then we sequence when we bring these bills through Congress.
There's concern in the White House about the ability to muster Republican votes. We've talked about this before. The Democrats often seem more united legislatively to get things through. You've said it's the will of the House, but you're not the House Speaker who cracks the whip like Nancy Pelosi did or some other previous House speakers to get votes across the finish line. You saw how tough health care was. How are you going to get tax reform through?
Yeah, actually, I like the process because it's more collaborative, it's more organic and bottom-up. We invite more people to participate in the process instead of just, I mean, look at Obamacare was a bill written in Harry Reid's office on Christmas Eve of 2009. That is hardly the process that gets you good policy. And so, yes, this did take us more time, but we included so many other members of Congress from all different backgrounds to participate in fashioning this legislation, and it made us all the stronger because of it. And so I really believe that that's the right style for running and managing Congress. More people involved, more members of Congress having a say-so. And yeah, it's going to be a little bumpy on the way. But tax reform, we all agree on tax reform. We are wired as Republicans with the same DNA, which is stop overtaxing manufacturers and producers, stop hurting families with an abusive IRS and a complicated tax code. So we are in such agreement on the critical principles of tax reform. And we also know that this is key for economic growth. Getting our regulatory agenda through, which we're well on our way to doing, and reforming and overhauling our tax system are the two crown jewels of getting America's economy growing faster and getting people to work, getting faster wage growth. We know that this is important, so we're dedicated to it, and I'm very confident that we will get this done this year.
Mr. Speaker, no appropriations bill or continuing resolution or omnibus spending bill has passed the House since 2012 without Democratic support. In this current environment, with this partisan atmosphere, as a result of what just happened this week, how can you get Democratic support on any legislative effort going forward?
Well, it is their choice if they want to make everything partisan, if they want to try and stop anything from happening. That would be an unfortunate choice that the Democrats would make if they make that choice. We just passed a government funding bill about 2 weeks ago that did have Democrat support. As you know, Brett, it takes 60 votes to pass appropriation bills in the Senate, so they all, by definition of the process, have to be bipartisan. So it would be a little strange in my mind if Democrats are going to filibuster funding the military, if Democrats are going to filibuster securing our border, if they're going to filibuster the things that people sent us here to do. So it'd be surprising to me if they're going to just try and shut down all of Congress and do nothing. That makes no sense to me, and I can't imagine that they would do that. Are they upset about this particular issue or that particular issue? Sure. We won the election, and we're advancing our principles and ideas, and we're doing what we said we would do when we ran for office, and now we're getting it done, and we're producing results. And that's what matters most, is the results that we produce. And so this is Congress. It gets partisan. The country's polarized and partisan. But at the end of the day, I can't imagine the Democrats are going to take their toys and go away and do nothing to work to advance people's interests.
Last thing, quick answer on tax reform. Will you get to President Trump's 15% corporate tax rate, or is 20% your red line on this?
No, I have no red lines on this. I'd like to go as low as possible. If we can get to 15%, I'm all in on doing that. It's just a question of getting the numbers to work or not. That's really what it is for us. We would love to get to 15%, so we'll see what we can do. But again, the lower the better as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Speaker, thanks for the time.
You bet. Take care, Brett.